the rest of you that are here in Blabland. I'm Latanya Moore, your host of Real Perspective. So while we're waiting on our third guest to join in, I want to just share an interesting read, and I want to encourage you to get this book by Mr. Damon Kingshot. It is called The New Masters, and The New Masters is a interesting novel. It's set in the UK in the 1940s. It's about a headmistress who tries to stop her school from being closed. The book is available on Amazon Kindle, is also available on lulu.com and Barnes and Noble. So always love to take the opportunity to give a shout out to indie authors. So for those of you that are interested, certainly email us. We'll let you know how to do that. We're going to get started. Today's show is called Digital Dating, Horror or Harmony. We all know that for anyone who has any experience, good, bad, or indifferent from online dating, you know that it could be more than interesting. And so with us, we have the pleasure of having Reginald Corbett. He is a cyber safety expert and the founder of Safe Cyber. Reginald, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invite.
We also have Dr. Heather Silvio. She is a psychologist, and she's going to share with us her perspective as far as online dating, some things that we all can do, those of us single folks out here, and what we can do. So while we're actually waiting on our other person to join us, and she's trying very hard, I'll go ahead and share who she is. She's Jeannie Ewing. She is a blogger and author, and we really would love to get her perspective because she has a story about a very successful online dating experience. She met her husband online. So while we were actually going to start with her, but you know, here at Blab, we're very flexible.
Hi.
Yes. Awesome, Jeannie. Welcome to the show. I've already introduced you.
I heard a little bit.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I just am not a tech savvy person, so I'm sorry about that.
Well, that's okay because you're here, and I was sharing with our guests that you are an author, a blogger, and coach, but your primary reason for being on the show today is to talk with us about your successful experience with online dating. So we're going to start with you. Talk with us about what made you decide to date online, and tell us a little bit about your experience.
Well, I had a series of really bad relationships, and I actually got engaged twice, and it just fell apart. Both of them fell apart, and I was really devastated. I was actually in graduate school at the time, and my mom was poking and pushing me to sign up for online dating, and I just didn't want to do that. I thought that was kind of desperate. I also felt like it was kind of creepy. I didn't know if I would meet somebody that was authentic or if they were, you know, just posing as a phony. So after she was really persistent for a long time, several months, I finally did it just to appease her. And I did meet several guys that were really less than desirable. I don't want to be really mean, but they were, you know, like I met them in person or we talked on the phone. It was just, they were just kind of weird, or they kind of creeped me out. And so then there was a period of time where I just didn't talk to anybody online or anything. I just kind of wanted to enjoy being single. And then this guy emailed me on this match website I was on, and I thought, oh great, it's another one of those, right? And I looked at his profile, I was like, he's a total nerd. I'm not gonna even consider him. And then he emailed me, and we started this back and forth conversation online that I thought, I think this guy's a little different. So it was more like a courtship. We talked on the phone for several months every day, and we emailed every day. And he asked me questions that I thought, this guy is really interested in marriage. He's really serious about this. He's asking me really important questions, not just what do you like to do on the weekends or what's your favorite color or whatever. So from there, it just progressed into a courtship and then engagement, and he met my family and I met his, and we got married a year later.
Wow, that is really a fabulous story, and I have a radio counterpart to this show, and I had actually done an identical topic, and unfortunately, we didn't have any harmony stories. So I was really excited to have you on the show. But Dr. Silvio, let me go to you for just a second, because Jeannie brings up a lot of interesting points. Talk with us about, first, your perspective on online dating, and what are some things that online daters can look for when they are seeking a match.
Okay, let me actually first add that I also am a success story. I also met my husband online. So you have two harmony stories on today.
Yay!
We've been married for about 2.5 years. So far so good.
And please feel free to share your stories with us. Like as many harmony stories as we can get would be fabulous.
Well, my story is a little bit different than Jeannie's. Mine wasn't so much that anybody was like, hey, you need to be dating. I move around a lot, and I was getting ready to move from Texas to Las Vegas, and I decided, you know what, I'd like to meet some people, really have it set up before I even get there. So I set up a profile. My husband laughs because I set up a date for every night the first week I was there. And then went on all of them. And like Jeannie said, some of them were not, I didn't meet anybody who was creepy or felt unsafe, anything like that. Just, they weren't really a good fit. Until I walked into the restaurant and I saw my future husband. And I knew that he would be the one. And a year after we met, he proposed and we got married 6 weeks later. So it was beautiful for me. It was the first time I had really tried online dating before. And that kind of speaks to a little bit of what you were asking in terms of what to look for. I think it's important to back up a step and look at why you would use online dating. And we are such a mobile society that is one of, I think, the biggest reasons that people use online dating is because we move a lot. You know, a lot of people don't stay in the same city or town longer than a year, 2 years. And if you're going somewhere new, you haven't met anybody yet, that can be an excellent way to kind of put yourself out there. But I also feel like once you are doing that, it's really no different. I look at online dating as a hybrid between meeting somebody in real life and being set up on a blind date. You have a lot of the same kind of benefits and issues of that hybrid. People obviously, and I'm sure Reggie will talk about this, in an online profile, people can pick stuff up, they can lie, they can misrepresent, they can have nefarious intentions. But that's not really all that different than somebody that you're going to meet in person. You still don't know until you started talking to them. So one of the things I think from a psychological perspective is being really clear on what you're looking for. I'm not talking about having a checklist, he or she needs to have, X, Y, Z, that kind of thing. But having an idea in your head of what type of person that you're interested in. You want somebody who is driven or more laid back, who's funny, that kind of thing, so that you don't get caught up in what somebody may be creating as a false profile. If somebody's putting up lots of really airbrushed pictures, that kind of tells you a little bit more potentially about who they are inside versus somebody who, yes, maybe they whiten their teeth a little bit or take out the wrinkles, but it still generally looks like them. And that lets you know that they maybe are a little bit more comfortable in their skin.
Okay, that's really interesting. And so before I sort of put my perspective out there, I want to go to Reginald, because you guys both brought up a couple of interesting things. You talked about some folks that you met were less than desirable, but you also talked about, like Dr. Silvio mentioned, about making small, minor adjustments, kind of putting your best foot forward. Reginald, talk with us about some potential pitfalls that online daters should look for.
Well, we have to understand that you can be anybody you want to be on the internet. Anybody that you want to be on the internet. People will build profiles for different reasons. Some of the risks that are involved are they can be online to steal identity. They can use dating services to steal a person's identity. They can use it for stalking. They can use it to cyberbully. So, just going and understanding that that could be anybody on the other end of that service. And so some things that I encourage people not to do is to not give out your information so quickly. I mean, being online, that's what is really the main thing. You want to protect your identity. You want to protect your information, because the more information a person has, the more information they can use against you when it comes to the things I mentioned, like cyberbullying, like stalking, like identity theft. So don't be so quick to give out even your personal information, even your whereabouts of where you're located. I know we want to have general conversations about where a person lives and what a person likes to do, but those aren't things that you want to give away on the first conversation, shall we say. You want to maybe ask that person, what are their interests? What are they online for? What are they looking for? You have to really look out for that person that is fishing for personal information, because those are usually some of that. Well, that's one of the signs that a person is either a scam or it's a person that has ill intentions as well.
That's really great information, because a lot of us, most of us, I know all of us are all over social media. I mean, we're Facebook, we're Twitter, we're LinkedIn, we're everywhere. And so it's a little bit more difficult nowadays for those of us that use a lot of social media to kind of hide ourselves. I know for me, for example, you can't find me in real time. And I know that a lot of folks, they like to check in, and that's nice. But at the same time, you have to think about those things, because you talked about cyber stalking. Talk a little bit about what are some very early warning signs, though, that you may actually be dealing with a stalker, even if they're looking for a legit relationship, but they may possibly be a stalker.
Well, I think one key sign is that when a person is that they want to know your whereabouts at all time, or that they know your whereabouts because you're posting them online, and so and then they'll comment. That'll be that person that constantly comments about, oh, I see you're at the Starbucks down, at the local coffee shop or something of that nature. Anytime that you post somewhere, or anytime that you post anything, they're a person that responds quickly, shall we say. Now, there are people who live a life online on a constant basis. We know that. But particularly those that are interested in you in a relationship fashion. So that's a key sign. I think another sign is a person that, again, asks you for personal information, asks you if you have kids, asks you where you live at. Going back to the kid situation is that, a lot of pedophiles will prey on single women who have children. So a person asking you about, do you have children? How old are they? What do they look like? Do you have any pictures of them? Or I see pictures of them online. That's a cute baby. You have to be cautious about that, especially when it comes to children. But again, pedophiles and stalkers and sexual predators will prey on women who are single who have children. So that's a key sign as well. And they also prey on women who are living in areas where, let's say, they just moved to town. Like a lot of people will post on the dating sites, just moved to town, new to the area, looking to meet people. Key sign. So you have to be careful with that. We know you want to be social. We know you want to get out and meet people and meet new people, but be cautious with that and know that the response you get may not be people who are willing to be social or willing to show you or tell you about things that are new in the area, that are new in town, but it may be someone with ill intentions, again, who knows that you're a single person, single woman moving to the area. The same thing for men as well. They should be cautious as well.
Okay, Jeannie, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think Reginald, what you're saying, I totally agree with you. And one thing that didn't really affect me 10 years ago when I was just starting out on online dating is this whole social media explosion wasn't really available yet. I mean, we had Facebook, and it was very different than it is now. And there, Twitter wasn't really a big deal. There weren't all these other like Instagram and LinkedIn and Reddit and all those, and certainly not webcasts or anything. So I didn't really have the same issue, but I've seen that happen with other people. And I also think that a big thing for me, at least, is you really have to know yourself well, and you have to really kind of tap into your gut, your intuition, and just if something doesn't feel right, you shouldn't do it. And I also think that some people today, especially millennial generation, don't really think about the consequences of what they're posting online. So something that really helps me, especially as an author and a blogger, is that I really have to think about what I'm going to say and how it's going to possibly be construed when I post something online. Because if I post pictures of my daughter with a craniofacial condition, there are some people that steal those photos and then they use them for, like you're talking about, cyberbullying and things like that. So some of these issues that we're seeing today were just starting out, but they weren't quite as prevalent maybe 10 years ago when I happened to be successful with my online dating experience. But I think part of the reason I was successful was that I knew myself and I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want in a husband. And when I did have some of these guys that were, like there was one guy that contacted me, and all he asked me over and over was, "Are you hot? Are you hot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really going to date you." It's like you have to know how to weed through the weeds, right? I think you have to be really assured in who you are, what you want. Like one person had a question about one-night stands. Well, that's not really an issue for me because I don't put myself out there like that. Like that was never even an option. It was really a slow progression with my now husband where I really had to open that vulnerability one step at a time. And you don't just dump it all out there all at once, right? I think some of this is maybe common sense to some of us that are a little bit older, but there are some younger people that I don't think that they really get that. They don't really grasp that this is not something that you should be sharing. You need to have some sort of emotional barricade that you maybe allow a certain trusted few, like trusted family, some friends. But a concern of me as a mom of two girls is this whole phony facade with predators and these cyber stalkers. And I will not let my kids ever get on Snapchat because of these things that I've heard about. And so I think that you make some really great points, and those are so important because they are issues now that were not really problems for me back 10 years ago.
So I want to switch for just a second to get to some of the questions that we have. I know you referenced one, Jeannie referenced one, but one of the questions, and this is really interesting, so I just want to get everybody's perspectives on this. Why do most women, and I think that men do this too, by the way, put 10-year-old pictures and only headshots, I guess, in their online profiles? And I know Dr. Silvio, you had I think responded to that, so I'll give you an opportunity to go first.
Well, part of what I responded in the chat box is, although yes, I think you're right. I think men do it as well. They may put pictures where they look a little thinner, maybe a little more buff, that kind of thing. But I do think it's probably accurate that women are more likely to put older photos where they believe that they look better. And I think that the reason that they do that is because in society today, women are still judged more on appearance than men are. I think it is starting to even out. I think men are being judged more on appearance, absolutely. But I still think with women, that's still what you get the most. I mean, I am a doctor, I'm an actress, I'm a writer, and the first thing is that really cute, right? As opposed to recognizing any of the accomplishments that I possibly have had. And men don't get that as often. Men get, oh, wow, you do this or you do that. It's not the first thing that somebody necessarily notices or comments on.
Okay, well, Jeannie, what's your perspective on that?
I can't hear Heather.
Okay, well,
so we were just
talking about the question about why do women put photos up, most women put photos up in their 10 years older. And so in a nutshell, what she was saying is that women are judged more on appearance. And so there may be some pressures there to put up an older photo so that I guess you can be more desirable.
You know, I think that's true, but I'm not that kind of person. I don't think if your goal for online dating is to find somebody who's authentic, then you have to be authentic. I mean, if you don't like your appearance, like today, I did my hair and my makeup. I don't do my hair and my makeup every day. I'm a mom of 2 young kids. I'm wiping noses and faces all day long, right? But when you are presenting your best self, you have to be okay with and actually confident in who you already are. So if I'm going to post a picture of myself when I was, 30 pounds lighter and younger skin and all this stuff when I was in my 20s, then I'm probably going to, first of all, I'm going to mislead somebody that could be a potential match for me. And secondly, I'm not going to probably find somebody that's being authentic either. There has to be that trust there. So, that wasn't really an issue with me 10 years ago and my husband. There were people like that were online. But, my husband and I were, I guess, that rare exception where we chose to be ourselves. And so I think that we have to do that.
At some point, the goal is to actually meet. So I don't know how you're going to explain, what you look like then in your pictures. I mean, what happened? I mean, did you go through some type of metamorphosis 2 weeks, prior? Who does that? And I think that's what is sort of shocking to me, that anyone would do that and think that they can get away with it. Reginald, what do you think?
Actually, can I address that? Because I have, I think, a reason for that. Because I've had people say that they, when they've met somebody online and they're just communicating on the phone or by email or texting for a significant period of time, that their hope is that by the time they actually meet in person, that the other person will be more accepting of what they look like, even if that's not what they presented in the beginning, because by then they've gotten to know the real me. I've heard people say that. I agree, of course, with Jeannie. I think that that's demonstrating some discomfort with yourself, and you're not really putting yourself out there honestly. But I have seen people do that, and that's the explanation that they gave, that they won't really have to worry about it later, because by then the person will have fallen for who they really are through electronic means.
Okay, Reginald, what's your perspective?
Well, I have a few. People fall in love with your pictures first, I believe. Fall in love, fall for it, infatuate with, whatever you want to call it, with the pictures that the person posts. So, it's, you have to be careful on a number of scales. For one, I don't agree when particularly women will take pictures and they're laid across their beds. You have to, like you're inviting that person into a sacred area who you don't know. So you can't post pictures like that. Any type of provocative pictures, you have to understand, we want you to be beautiful. We want you to show it, but there needs to be some type of awareness, because that picture all it takes is right click and paste and copy. I'm sorry. And then, they have a copy of that picture, whether it's in your bedroom, in your bathroom, whatever the case may be. You have to be careful what you post, because people can get copies of those pictures and they can use them for whatever reason they want to use them. And there are many reasons why they will. But as far as the profile pictures, understand that, like I mentioned earlier, there are people who will create these fake profiles with these fake pictures. The model pictures that are real, you can see it's like clearly that is not, you. There are cases where people will go out and take some really nice pictures, but if you have the eye, you can tell. Some of you ladies might have seen, the guys who look like the European models, and the great back drop and stuff of that nature. But they'll create these profiles with these fake pictures. And as far as the old pictures, I think that the answer to the question, I don't really know why, besides the reason the ladies mentioned. You know, there are a number of reasons why they will put an old profile or picture, an old picture on the profile for, you know, thinking that, oh, back then I was beautiful, or I was a little sexier then, in that nature. But you know, like Jeannie said, you know, you should give the picture of your current state. You know, let me know what we're getting into or what I'm getting into. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, I don't know. And as a disclaimer, I have to say, Reginald and I have known each other. We went to high school together, so we can kind of attest that we sort of still look the same. Right. So I think that, you know, I'd like to think that if I posted a high school picture, no one's gonna know, but that just isn't true. It's just not it's just not reality. So I think it's I don't know. I can sort of understand someone saying, oh, well, I looked better then. But the reality of things is that you just don't look like that now. And I think that what Jeannie said is exceptionally crucial. People that are really looking to date, they're looking for folks that are authentic. They're looking, that's the first lie that you've told. So everything started from that point. Yeah. And that's, I think, what is most concerning to me about the fact that, or the point that the person was making about putting those pictures out there. Realistically, men are visual creatures. They like to see what's beautiful to them. Absolutely. But if you don't look like that, he's probably not going to stay for dinner. So I don't know that it really makes sense to do that. We have another question, which is really interesting. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about this one. It says, why do all of my first dates turn into one-night stands? Why do women put in their profile that they don't? I think they were going to say when they do. So there's so many different places that we can go with this, but I want to start with Reginald on this one, just because he's a man. And so I want to know your personal perspective, but also from a safety standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. I think the counter question would be, why do you allow your first dates to turn into one night stands? But, you know, but, you know, I guess maybe that to help answer that question, again, a person can be whoever they want to be and say whatever they want online. When you meet them in person, it could be a totally different story, a totally different look. And I think, you know, some people go into it with the intentions of actually, you know, having a relationship or forming a relationship. But I think also if you are okay with it being a one night stand, and then that person's, well, oh, I know what he's about. So maybe in this moment of loneliness, you know, I'll do this, you know, I'll submit to this. And then I know that he's a person that I cannot probably not spend the rest of my life with. And I'll just go on to the next one. So I think men and women do it too. You know, it's you know, the social dating, online dating can be used for a hookup. And there are sites and with the mobile apps now, the mobile dating, it clearly says hookup. You know, this is what this app is for. So, you know, for a person to get onto one of those apps or use one of those online dating services and it clearly says hookup and think that you're about to find a relationship, I think you're deceiving yourself and others. You know, especially when you get onto there and you build a profile that says looking for long-term relationship and marriage, and it's like you're on a hookup site. So,
Jeannie, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with everything Reginald's saying. I mean, I feel like there's another side to this too. I mean, are you thinking about your health? You know, why would you do these one night stands when you don't know this person and you don't know if they have STDs, or I just, that to me, that is frightening. And I also feel like there are probably, and Dr. Silvio could probably answer this and I won't be able to hear what she says, but there are probably some psychological issues with that. I mean, there have to be a lot of layers to why somebody is so insecure that they allow this to happen time and time again. Because, I mean, again, I feel like if we are putting ourselves out there and it's a permanent mark on these social media sites, then we have to really be careful, and I think more guarded than we are with our interpersonal relationships that we have with our neighbors and our family and our friends, right? Because you don't know what you're getting. You just don't know. And then again, you know, if I'm insecure and I'm going online to look for companionship, and then I end up posting these phony pictures or these old pictures, or posting what I want people to know about me, that I'm maybe sugarcoating things, or I'm only becoming narcissistic about my life, and I'm not really being real and honest, then I mean, to me, I feel like then that's what you're going to get. You're going to get the consequences of that choice.
Dr. Silvio, what's your perspective?
I completely agree, and I'm really sorry Jeannie's not going to be able to hear what I'm saying, but I find it interesting for the individual who posted that question, you know, asking, why do all of my first dates become one-night stands? We have a human tendency to make things about the other person instead of looking at ourselves. This is something I talk with folks in therapy about all the time. They'll make statements like, he made me mad, she made me mad, that kind of thing. Nobody makes us do anything. It's all choice that we have. Now, we're not always aware of why we're making that choice. That's part of what therapy can help us to uncover. But ultimately, it's about our behavior. So if I'm noticing that all of my first dates are becoming one-night stands, it's not really, to me, the more helpful question isn't, what is it about these women that's happening? The more helpful question is, what is it about me that this is happening? Am I looking for certain things about profiles that suggest to me, even on a subconscious level, that they're going to want to actually have a one-night stand? Or is it something about the way that I'm approaching them when we're, you know, say out at dinner or the movies or wherever we are, that it progresses to that point? Then, like I said, looking at our own behavior, while typically a little scarier and not what we're used to doing, we're used to really focusing on the other person and thinking of ourselves as reacting to them. Really, the most helpful perspective is to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, how is this happening? Why is it that I'm finding myself in these situations? And flipping it to the other side, if I'm a woman who is constantly finding that I'm in one-night stands, is, as Jeannie said, maybe looking at that and kind of figuring out, am I just really lonely? Is this my way of ineffectively connecting with other people? There can be lots of reasons behind that, but the most important thing really to me is looking at what are my reasons for it instead of focusing on the other person as sort of the instigator for it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reginald, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing, one more risk that is involved with, especially meeting someone online for particularly a one-night stand. From a sense of, you know, for men, it's dangerous because you have women now who are setting men up, and they're meeting them at hotels and they're being robbed. Mm-hmm. Women, it's dangerous because, you know, again, you're putting yourself in an environment with someone that you do not know for anything to happen, you know, and it happens on a regular basis, particularly for the younger generation as well, but also the adults, but particularly more so for the younger generation. They're putting themselves in environments with people that they do not know. For instance, recently in this area, in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, a 13-year-old girl met an 18-year-old. I don't know if you all heard this on the news, but met an 18-year-old on the Kick app who she was dating, who she was sneaking out of her home, out of her window at night to meet up. And this young lady's life was taken. We don't know for sure by him or his associate, which was a female. They both went to Virginia Tech College. She was a 13-year-old girl. She had been bullied online as well. So, you know, going back to what Dr. Silvio was saying, you know, the psychological that's involved with that, you know, there's so much that it could lead to. It starts with certain things, but it could lead to things like a tragic end with this 13-year-old girl. And particularly it touched home to me because my daughter was 13 when I started Safe Cyber, and she was the reason why I started Safe Cyber because of me finding out about conversations she was having on social media with people that she did not know. So, you know, we have to understand the safety issue that goes along with meeting people online for one moment at a time, for a one-night stand, whether it's or just to meet in person in general. You know, again, you want to have steps to this. You want to, you know, kind of, I feel like the longer you can drag it out, so to speak, the better, because when a person starts getting impatient, that's a sign. If they're constantly, let's meet, then that's a sign. For one, it's a sign that they're an impatient person. But yeah, you wanna have steps to this online dating thing as much as possible and keep yourself secure until you feel like you're comfortable to meet that person.
Jeannie, did you have a comment to that?
Yeah, I have two things actually. So the first thing is that my husband was really good about that, taking things really slowly when we first interacted on this match website. And that was a huge clue for me that he was on the right track to really getting to know me, right? So I really appreciate what Reginald said about that, because I agree with that. If somebody that you meet online is they just want to leap into this really intense relationship, it's kind of like, that should be a red flag. I mean, there are a lot of things that we're talking about today that I'm thinking, you know, most of us should know inherently that these are red flags. But if somebody really, really wants to know you and they're in it for the long haul, then they're likely to take it slowly and be willing to let things naturally unfold. So I was really appreciative about that with my husband. And the other thing is, I think when we're talking about cyber safety too, this is huge for our kids. So if we want healthy kids and we want them to grow up and they may possibly obviously meet people online that they may end up start dating, but we want to really educate them and start young, I think. Something that I heard by a psychologist not long ago is, and it's about cyber safety, was talking about why would any of us as parents let our kids go outside and we have no idea where they're going? But that's what we do every time we give them a digital device or they have their own, and we have no idea where they're going online. We don't know who they're meeting or who, you know, is posing to be a kid and they're really some predator. We have no idea. So I think if we can make that analogy, and we can use this analogy in adulthood too, but if we can think, okay, when I go outside the physical threshold of my door, I need to know where my kids are going. Same thing when they're online. And I'm not really sure, Reginald, what you do with your Safe Cyber education, but I would be really interested to know about that for my kids,
right.
For my
family. That example you just gave is one that I share all the time in my cyber parenting presentations and workshops. I start off with that. I tell parents, you know, giving your child a device that's connected to the internet, it's like sending them outside for the first time without any direction or instruction. You know, in our day, we were told, okay, you stay in the yard, here are the boundaries, you don't talk to strangers, you don't go on the road, you don't play in the street, you don't ride your bike in the middle of traffic. That is the same thing when it comes to the internet highway, shall we say. And I use the example of a normal highway when it comes to cars. You know, you can do everything that you can to be safe once you get your driver's license and you start driving. You can do everything you can. You can follow the rules. You can stop at the stop signs. You can stop at the red lights. You can change lanes with your blinkers. But that does not mean that the other person is going to follow those rules. That is the same thing with being online. There are people out there who are not going to follow the rules and the etiquette when it comes to being connected. So you have to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do to be safe, and also guard yourself as much as possible. It's not to say that, you know, just like in an accident, someone is not going to hit you, but again, you have to do whatever it takes for you to keep safe while you're online. And I teach children the same thing.
And Reginald, I wanna ask one question sort of along those lines. So for people that are dating online, and let's say that they find themselves in some of these very situations that we've talked about, whether it's someone is they've given someone some information, whether they've gotten to a place and they realize, okay, I may be in danger. What are some tips and tools that you would say to clients in those situations? What should they do to protect themselves?
Well, if they feel like they've given too much information away already, they have to block the person. Whatever site you're on, you need to start with blocking them. You have to be aware of what information you gave them and how they could use it. Again, if we're talking about some type of financial information, there are a lot of instances where people from other countries are contacting, particularly women online, and they are asking them, for money, to send them money. Big sign, the big no. And they're using the person's profile information to cater their profile to meet the needs or the wants of that particular person, whether it's male or female. So you have to be careful of things like that. But again, you have to block the person. If you feel like your information has been compromised, you need to, if it's financial information, you need to contact the proper authorities or contact the proper business, to, whether put a block on it, put a watch on it, something of that nature. But I think the biggest thing that you can do is block that person. Again, depending on how much information that you share, you may have to start a whole new profile, because when a person is cyberbullying you, they're gonna, and you've given them all of your information as far as your social site and things of that nature. You may have to start from scratch, unfortunately, but that is why you do not share all of your information at one time to some person who you are just talking to online. You all haven't moved to the steps of dating on a regular basis or engagement or even marriage. You just have to be careful with the information that you share.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask about that because, again, it may not necessarily, people use social media for everything. We've heard, we don't have to go to a match site to hear stories, whether they're success stories or horror stories about people that connected, whether it be through Facebook, Twitter, whatever means and mechanisms. And that's why I wanted you to speak to that, because, again, I think that we have the impression that when we're on our social media pages, it's just us. And we're just kind of just posting for the three people that we happen to be engaging with. And we don't understand that it is out over the entire internet, depending on how you have your page set up. For a while, my Facebook profile was completely public. I didn't even know I was supposed to go in and put all these filters and privacy settings and all this sort of stuff, because I used it primarily for business. So I really didn't think anything about it until I had a incident where let's just say I had to call someone, and Reginald, I probably should have called you to see what to do, but I ended up figuring out what to do or finding out what to do, and I had to put those privacy settings in place because of that. So that's what I want us to shift just a little bit, if we can. We're still talking, guys, about digital dating, horror or harmony, but I really like where the conversation has gone about social media, because that's a tad bit different from dating match sites. So any one of you who sort of have a point about that, I'd love to hear what you think about that in comparison to matchmaking sites.
If I can jump in.
I could say something. Well, I also think with social media, people tend to have what we call in our family diarrhea of the mouth. Like, if they get mad, or if they're offended, or if there's any kind of passionate emotion, it just comes dumping out, right, as a comment or a post on someone's wall or something like that. And I feel like most of us don't really take time to be intentional about what we're saying. So when we type something, when we text something, we email, we post something on social media, we need to be intentional. And sometimes I think we have to kind of filter our brains before we make the action, the behavior of putting that out there and posting it and making it public. And because, people are nasty on social media. I feel like there have been some things that I've said that have been so benign, and it's completely just a thought that I have. And it's, I'm just sharing something about this very fluffy thought. And then I'll inevitably have people private message me on Facebook. Were you talking about me? Are you saying that because I did so? And I'm like, first of all, how egotistical is it if I'm sitting here reading what everybody writes and I think it's about me? So yeah, exactly. But I mean, my husband has pointed out, and actually I'm working on writing a book right now about social media etiquette because of the information age we live in, and just kind of my own experience sifting through it and kind of realizing there's this unspoken set of rules that nobody's really taught, right? So my husband's the one that labeled it. He said, this is about narcissism. I mean, you're taking selfies all the time. And of course, I'm not denigrating that. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because there are lots of things that we can meet or know about people. And I know that I connect with other families that have kids with the same craniofacial condition that my youngest daughter has. And we've connected from all over the world. And there's a sense of camaraderie. So there's this positive aspect of social media, right? Where there is some sense of connection, but I feel like it's very limited, because if I'm connecting with my friend in Israel that has a son with APER, which is what my youngest daughter has, I can't just go visit her. There comes a point where the relationship, when it's that far distant, that where do you take it next, right? So, I mean, there's so many layers to this onion that has to do with social media, where I feel like there needs to be some sort of written or educated set of rules or understanding, so that people know, you really probably shouldn't say this in a text message. Or if you're upset about something, you should sit on it for a while and then maybe call the person and see if you can talk about it. Because, and Dr. Silvio, I'm sure, knows this as a psychologist. I have a background in psychology too, but 85% plus of communication is conveyed through our facial expressions, our tonal inflection. And so when you're just writing something on social media or in a text message and email, you're only getting a very small fraction of what the total picture of what that person is trying to convey to you.
A great rule of thumb is, would you say this to the person's face? If you are talking about someone, is this something that you would actually say to that person's face? And if the answer is no, you may not want to put it out on social media. Dr. Silvio, did you have a response to that? A comment?
I do. I think it's funny. The whole idea of social media, I think both of you are right, that a lot of times we have this sense of anonymity to it, that I'm putting this out there and it's only, those 4 people who are going to see it, when in reality, maybe I have 500 friends on Facebook and potentially all of them could see it. And as Jeannie said, who knows how many of them will read into what you wrote and say, oh my gosh, that's about me. And there definitely is this idea. I hesitate to call it narcissism. I know they've done a lot of studies about that, about the connection between selfies and narcissism. I think it's still, relatively speaking, a new media. And so people are still sort of enamored of it. And at our core, human beings are self-absorbed. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's part of a survival. It helps us to get along in society. But that idea of anonymity, it's kind of, if I can sort of go to the side a little bit, it's kind of where road rage comes from as well. When somebody does something that I don't like while I'm driving and the person yells and screams and flashes their lights and does all that kind of stuff, we say and do things that we likely would not even consider doing if that person was standing right in front of us. And it's the same thing on social media. We have a tendency to, because we don't have those cues that Jeannie was talking about from inflection and facial expression and other body language cues, when we lack that, we will very often interpret something that is fairly ambiguous and put all of our own biases onto it. because I've had that same experience. You know, I posted something, I want to say about a week ago. It was an article I had read. And from a psychological perspective, I was fascinated by it. Wasn't making a political statement, anything like that. And yet, like she said, I got a couple of private messages about it saying, hey, were you trying to bait somebody with that? Not in the least. I found it interesting. And so I happen to teach a communications class. And that's one of the things that I teach the men and women in that class is that with social media, your best bet is to take it 100% at face value. Assume that what they have written is exactly what they mean. Don't read into it, because odds are you're just putting your own, like I said, beliefs and biases onto it. If you have a question about something, like Jeannie said, pick up the phone. It works wonders too.
Absolutely. So, Reginald, I know we've taken a little bit of a turn. What are your thoughts?
I think we should understand that, you know, the cliff notes of a person's life will never give you an accurate representation of reality. So it's you know, again, I guess I go back to, you know, you can be wherever you want to be, and people will judge you. People will see your profile and see the things that you post and assume that is you. That's what you're all about. They'll see your pictures. A person can, you know, create these pictures of traveling and them doing all this community work and doing all these nice things, but that may not be the person or their personality in reality. So, you know, I think Dr. Silvio hit it on the head. It's just, you know, you have to understand that the person on the other end may not be the person that you get in real life, bottom line. And you have to go into it thinking that and knowing that. Like Latanya, like you said, you and I know each other. We went to school together. So, you know, there's not any assumption about who you are and the person that you are. But if I did not know you, then, you know, the only thing I would go by was what I saw online, you know, and all of the things that you do positive that you post online and things of that nature. But again, a person can build such a facade when it comes to having an online life and social media in general, period. It's all things social. So we have to understand that we cannot take the things that we see or the things that we hear as that being that person in general, you know, and you know, point in cases, things like cyberbullying and trolling and things of that nature. You see, like Jeannie said, some of the nastiest things that come out of people's mouth, and then it's some people that you know, and you think, I had no idea that they were like that. you know, so that makes you, you know, either want to not communicate with that person or unfriend them or block them or whatever the case may be.
And that's really interesting because I like the fact, because I think what we're saying is that from whether it's dating or any type of digital interaction, it's really just a snapshot of who this person is, period. We make a whole assessment about who a person is based on their pictures, based on what's put out there. And realistically, that's what public relations is really about. That's why a lot of us who are doing certain things, we have PR people, we have a message, we have a brand, we have things that we want to be known for. And so these are the things that we put out. But I think you make a very, very crucial point, especially when we're talking about dating, because that's not the totality of who any of us are. Those 10-year-old pictures that Jane may post is just what she looked like 10 years ago. But it says a lot about who she is today, because as we've all said, it's not a clear representation of even what you look like. So what else are you putting up this facade about? What else are you photoshopping? What else are you changing? What else are you hiding? So it just leads to all these other questions. We are coming to the end of our fabulous hour. So I want to give each of you, Reginald, we're going to start with you. I want to give each of you an opportunity to talk specifically about what you do, and then also share with our viewers how they can find out more about what you do and how they can continue to stay in contact with you if they have a question.
Okay. Well, I'm the founder of Safe Cyber, where we educate communities about safe connectivity, basically. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Safe Cyber was created and founded because of my experiences with my 13-year-old daughter and finding out that she was having conversations with individuals online. My background is in physical security investigations and personal protection. So as a safety Sam, as they would call me, I felt like I gave her all the information she needed to be safe online. I'm sorry, offline, as far as, when you go out in public, make sure you are aware of your surroundings, make sure that you are with people that you should be with, make sure you don't talk to strangers. And so to find out that I gave her the information she needed in the real world, and then find out about cyber world, and seeing that she needed information and I needed to be educated as far as a parent on what I needed to do to help keep her safe online. And so after studying and doing my research, again, I found a Safe Cyber. So I go around to schools, youth organizations, and some businesses and talk to them about issues like cyberbullying, social media etiquette, digital footprint and reputation, which I may add, and I know we're out of time, but digital footprint and reputation is also important when you are online, dating online. Again, what people can do with those pictures and what they will do with them can be pretty scary. So understand that anything that you are conducting yourself in when it comes to online and social media, you're building your digital footprint. You're either building it or tearing it down. So, and when I talk to students and college students and youth who are looking for careers and in the future, I talk to them about the digital footprint reputation, and I tell them that half of the companies now are looking at your social media to determine whether they want you to work for them or not. They're not, supposed to determine that they will hire you, but they are doing it. They're even hiring third-party companies to do it. So that's what I do. You can find me on social media at SafeCyberEDU, and that is on Twitter, on Facebook. My webpage is safecyberedu.com. And all my contact information is on there as well.
Okay, awesome, Jeannie. So let us know what you do and how our viewers can continue to stay in contact with you.
Okay, I'll do the Reader's Digest version so Dr. Silvio can go. Okay, I'm a writer, I'm a freelance editor, I'm a blogger, and I have 2 websites. And my website that really kind of chronicles my daughter with a rare disease is called lovealonecreates.com. I'm on Twitter, it's at JeanEwing07. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You can just Google my name and you'll find everywhere that I write. So that's essentially what I do. My background is I have a BA in psychology, I have a master's in counseling, and I used to be a school counselor before
awesome.
I had my
Silvio.
So I am a clinical psychologist, an actress, and a writer. I also have a website. It's heathersilvio.com. And as Jeannie and Reggie said, I'm also on all of the social media sites. If you Google Heather Silvio, you'll find most of it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all of that. And I definitely encourage anybody to reach out if you have any questions about anything that certainly I participated in today. I'd be happy to answer any of that.
Awesome, guys. Well, I'm your host, LaTanya Moore. As most of you know, I'm an attorney, entrepreneur, author, and now, most recently, a thrift addict and DIY upcycle fashion designer. So it's so funny. We all do a multitude of things. I want to thank my guests for the show. This is a really great topic. It's really fabulous because this is something that for those of us in this age group, it's something that's new, but it's something that I think that it is very important so that we can be equipped to teach our children how to be safe, how to move forward and do the things that they need to do in a safe and loving environment. Again, I'm your host, LaTanya Moore. This is Real Perspectives, where we seek real people with real issues and real solutions from real perspectives. Until next Saturday, have a great day.
Bye.